Hello, hello, hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marilyn Margolis. I'm the CEO of Emory Johns Creek Hospital. I'm a nurse and a proud graduate of Leadership Johns Creek. I'm honored, no pun intended, to be part of this group of phenomenal judges, all very honorable. That's the last time I'll say honorable, but I really am so really touched that Irene and Heather Redrick, our Chief Nursing Officer, asked me to be the moderator for this panel. I know we're going to learn a lot of great things. Looking forward to hearing from each of you. I'm going to start by introducing each one of our 4 judges. And from there, the format will be that they will answer questions that I have prepared. And then we will go to a question and answer at the end, about 10 minutes for questions and answers. So please enter your Q&A. There's a part in your webinar that has Q&A on it, and we have somebody monitoring the Q&A so we can get the questions that way as the judges talk. So I'll start with Judge LaGrua. Judge Shawn LaGrua was appointed to the Superior Court of the Atlanta Judicial Circuit in December of 2009, sworn in 2010, and reelected in 2012 and 2016. Prior to her appointment to the bench, she served as Inspector General for the Georgia Secretary of State, overseeing investigations in the Election Securities, Charities, and Licensing Division. Judge LaGrua serves on the Fulton County Superior Court's Executive Committee and co-chairs its Magistrate Committee. She presides over My Journey Matters, a pilot probation program designed to divert young offenders from a lifetime of incarceration, as well as the court's first reentry court, which works to integrate prior offenders back into the community, utilizing close supervision, substance abuse counseling, job training, and advanced education. Judge LaGrua received her undergraduate degree from the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and received her Juris Doctorate from Georgia State University College of Law, where she later taught advanced evidence and litigation. She is married to Chris Beanland. She has 2 stepsons, Daniel and Ben, and 2 fur children, Grizzly and Riley. So thank you so much, I'm sorry, I'm in a different world here. Judge
All right, you can call me doctor, nurse, I answer to anything.
Okay, I'll just pick one for each of you. So next we have Judge Barwick. So Judge Barwick, from 2015 till the current time, is on the Superior Court of Fulton County. She's the Judicial Officer and Magistrate Judge for Fulton County Superior Court from 2012 to 2014. She went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut. She is a graduate for her JD from the University of Georgia School of Law, and wow, the Order of the Barristers, Columbia Theology Seminary, Masters of Divinity. Impressive. She has a lot of professional experience, Habitat for Humanity. She's an adjunct professor in the School of Law at Emory, go Emory, and she's a member of the Fulton County Task Force on Child Support. So welcome, Judge Barwick. Next, we have Judge Dunaway. Judge Dunaway was elected to the Superior Court of Fulton County He has a Juris Doctorate from Mercer University School of Law, and he got his Bachelor's of Art at Morehouse College, a local attorney, yay. And currently, he's a Deputy Chief Assistant DA for DeKalb County, Assistant District Attorney, Paulding County, Fulton County, and he's the Assistant Solicitor of the City of Atlanta. So welcome, Judge Dunaway. I almost called you Dr. Dunaway. And then we have, last but certainly not least, Judge Carnesale. She is presently the Superior Court on the Superior Court of Fulton County. She got her Juris Doctorate at Emory University School of Law, Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She's currently the Chief Assistant District Attorney for Blue Ridge Judicial Court, the Division Director for the Georgia Department of Family and Children's Services, and the Deputy Director of the Georgia Office of Child Advocates. Let me just say, for all these judges, I'm reading a very small part of what they are and what they've done in their past. These are so impressive. And also, Judge Carnesale lives in Johns Creek. She has two sons, Ryan, 18, and Brady, 15. Her husband, Keith, he's a defense attorney in this area. So again, let us welcome all our judges, and thank you so much for spending this hour with us. We are much appreciative. So I'm going to start out with a question that I'd like all of you to weigh in on, and then we'll go to the individual questions. So in these unprecedented times, how have you seen your role change, and what impact has COVID had on you personally and professionally? And I'll start with Judge Dunaway.
Thank you all for having me. I do want to make sure everyone knows that I'm currently not a district attorney or solicitor at this point. I had to give up those jobs to be a judge, but I was at the DeKalb DA's office here in Fulton County, Fulton DA's office. And a long time ago, when I had hair, I was a solicitor with the City of Atlanta right out of law school. So it has been a great career. And this year has made things a lot different. This has been a very up and down roller coaster year, personally and professionally. Personally, I have two school-age kids, and we had to work last year on how to set up and do virtual schooling. For the first time, both of the girls were home. They were tapping the internet. My wife was tapping the internet. As all the judges here know, we are handling cases by Zoom over the internet. So I was tapping the home internet. So we had to up our internet speed to make sure everyone was able to accomplish the work that they needed to accomplish. And we had to find space in the house so that I wouldn't hear them doing their school work and they wouldn't hear me doing my judge work. So we had to find space in the house for everyone to work at the same time. And so it definitely made that different. My parents are 80 years old, and they're in that high risk category. So we've been real cautious about how we deal with my parents and how we go see them, because we don't want them to get sick, and we definitely don't be the ones to be the cause of them getting sick. So it's changed that dynamic as well. And then professionally, not being around my colleagues and being able to reach out to them and touch them and go to lunch with them and have in-face meetings with them, because we get along pretty well here on the bench, and actually missing out on them and missing out on being around the lawyers and the public, that has been different for me, because I'm such a people person. I love to get out and spend time with people, and it's just been a little different and difficult not being able to do that.
Thank you so much. And you can tell you're a people person. Really appreciate that. Judge Barwick, would you like to go next?
I would. I think it's a lot easier, and I join Judge Dunaway and Judge LaGrua and certainly Judge Carnesale in thanking you for this opportunity. This is much more fun for us than I'm sure it is for you, but thanks again for inviting me. I think it's a lot easier to talk about what hasn't changed. as a result of COVID. What hasn't changed is that our court has been open every millisecond since March. We have not closed the doors to the courthouse once. The other thing that hasn't changed is that we're working very, very hard, differently, but we are handling cases. Cases are being filed every day, particularly in the civil arena and in the family arena. Cases are being filed every day. Cases are being handled every day. And cases are being concluded every day. Mediation is occurring across the state, but certainly in Fulton County. So those are the things that haven't changed. It's very important, hopefully, for everyone to connect with how much business is going on during these challenging times.
Yeah, a lot of times we think about what we have given up, but there are some upsides to, I think, everybody's day to day with COVID that we just have. It's taken us 6 months to figure it out, I think. So thanks, Judge Barwick. How about Judge LaGrua?
I miss you too, Eric. I get to see Jane occasionally. We're on the same floor. You know, that's a difficult question on many fronts. For me, one of the big changes has been I have been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough, depending on how you look at it, to be the Chief Justice's chair of his COVID task force for the state. So I've been working pretty diligently with 30 other folks named to the task force to come up with plans for going back to court in the best way we can, both civilly and criminally, how we handle grand juries, how we handle juries. And I know that both Judge Barwick, Judge Dunaway, and Judge Carnesale have also been very active on our own bench in figuring out how we go back. Judge Dunaway's and Judge Carnesale have been real active with the voir dire. Judge Barwick just headed up a committee that did a fantastic PSA with our Chief Judge Brasher about for the public about what jury service is going to look like as we begin. So I've been very busy. I don't know that we're going away from Zoom ever again. I think some of the changes that have come during COVID will be permanent changes. They won't be permanent in the same way they are today. So not everything will be via Zoom, and not dealing with defendants at the jail won't be via Zoom. But I think technology has advanced years ahead of where we would have been right now without COVID, which is good and bad, I think. And I think Judge Dunaway and Judge Carnesale in particular can weigh in on the ups and the downs, or the pros and the cons of virtual learning for children that aren't interacting with their peers and other young people. And I think while there are pluses to being able to virtually learn, I think there are also minuses to children not being around their peers. You know, right now, just to put in context where we're going to be going with COVID, we have over 20,000 inmates across the state awaiting jury trials. We have not had a jury trial in this state since March anywhere. And I'm not just talking about Fulton County. I'm talking about statewide. Some jurisdictions you may see a trial or two late November, early December. It looks like in Fulton County, we'll be starting in January with as many precautions as we can take to make sure that jurors feel safe coming back into the courthouse. COVID's going to have an impact long-term. For me personally, I'm like Judge Dunaway, well, actually like all four of us probably, the reason you have us on. We're people. We're people. We enjoy the interaction in the courtroom with live human beings. I am, no disrespect to anybody, any of the Johns Creek folks on this, I'm thrilled to be here today, but I'm tired of talking to my computer. I want to talk to some real live human beings and have them back in the courtroom arguing to me where they can gesture and they can show me things and do things. So I think those are sort of the ways it's impacted me both personally and professionally over the last we're coming up on maybe 7 months now since we started this.
Those are wonderful insights. And it always surprises me when we talk so we've been in the hospitals dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, and that sort of makes you hospital centric. But when I hear other disciplines and other professions talking about it, it's the exact same issues. It's like, I'm sick of being on Zoom. You know, when can we get together in person? We know we're going to have hybrid of all of these things. And one of the things you reminded me of is telemedicine has really taken off since we've been unable to do this high touch thing. So thank you very much, Judge LaGrua. And then now we go to Judge Carnesale.
Well, I think that it has really informed how I handle Zoom court, that I do have kids who have been on Teams and Zoom, and that I've got a husband who's tried to find a pocket in the house to attend court too. There's lots of technological issues in attempting to handle school, and just the difficulties of teachers trying to teach kids by Zoom. So my oldest child is in a special needs program. Imagine trying to do adaptive PE and music via Zoom. It's so hard. And so I've observed that. And as a judge, I have experienced folding myself into a ball to try to make court work. It's been really helpful to watch the kids struggle in school. It gives me some idea of how the litigants feel on the other end of a camera. My almost 80-year-old mother lives with me. And as I said, my oldest child has some special needs, including medical special needs. So we've been very cautious at our house. But I have utilized something my mother drilled into my head my entire life throughout this. She always said the same thing to me as a kid: adaptability is a sign of intelligence, and solve your problem. So I had parents that made me figure it out for myself. And that's what this really has been, trying to figure out if we can adapt and find a way. So on many levels, I have really enjoyed Zoom court because I appreciate being able to show a little grace to people who can't work the telephone. Who knew that any of us would be in a situation of trying from the bench, the virtual bench, to describe to someone where to find the button on their phone? Other colleagues of ours have had people show up in a bathtub with the shower cap, and had to tell people, you got to be dressed. You got to go off your camera, turn off, and shouting at them, turn off your camera, while the people stand up to go get dressed. Today is a great example. I had virtual court also, and one of the things I had was a juvenile charged as an adult with really serious charges who's on bond, and the person who's kind of in charge of tracking those kids for our courthouse, in a really neat program we have, brought her to my attention because she's not showing up for digital school. So I was able to have a pretty good heart-to-heart with her before the internet died, because she was in my courtroom and I was not, about the challenges of online learning. It is hard to show up when you don't know the teacher, when the teacher isn't calling you out. It is hard to do your work when you're not getting a grade for like 3/4 of what you turn in. And, the grading system aside. So I was able to really communicate with that young lady. She was really brought to me today so I would scare her. And I think I did scare her. But moving forward, what's going to happen is we're going to have a virtual date every Monday morning to make sure she's going to court. But I talked to her about my kids and their challenges. So I think one takeaway from all this is it's reminded people that judges are human beings too. As I sit here in my study, it's a miracle the cat hasn't walked by. It's a miracle the dog's not barking. And it reminds judges that lawyers are human. I have watched families walking past, kids climbing into parents' laps, pets, cooking. The other day I had a civil hearing where it appeared the lawyer lives in a studio apartment and someone behind her kept trying to go behind her and cook dinner. So it's just a reminder that we're all just people. We're all just human beings. And I think that's been one really good part of this experience.
Thank you so much. It makes me think of as many times as I've been talking on mute, which is the thing. Yeah. And so when you talk about people in their bathtubs, we've done almost all of our meetings at Emory Healthcare on Zoom now, and some real funny things have happened. As long as it's not, you're not the one doing the funny thing, it's better. But so Judge Carnesale, I'm going to start again with you on your question, if that would be okay. Because of your background in child welfare and crimes against children, and also your involvement with Student Leadership Johns Creek for several years, can you talk about how the students inform the way that you do business? It sounds like with your mother's great help, you have a really good hold on problem solving and how to get to the end of a problem. Thank you.
Thanks. So as you laid out in my biography, I started out in prosecution and child welfare before I became a judge. And being good friends with the head of student leadership, Johns Creek, I volunteered to let kids shadow me years ago. So since the program started, I had kids that would drive to my various jobs to shadow me and watch court. And the thing that I really liked about it is just hearing what they thought about what they observed and what didn't seem fair to them or what scared them about the process. And of course, the kids in student leadership, Johns Creek, are not typically ones that would interface with the system in a negative way. So that's a lot of kids. The kids who shadowed me wanted to be lawyers and now judges. But still, from their perspective of what's important to them, what they value, and what makes them believe in a system, what makes them believe it's fair and right. It's been very informative to me dealing with those kids over the years. If I hadn't become a judge, I probably would have been a teacher because I just really like kids and being around young people. So you mentioned previously that I've been working on a teen court. Last year, I had a lot of students that spent a lot of time in my courtroom, not just a one-time observation, but kind of sitting near the bench and being able to pass notes back and forth and talking about cases. I think that's really valuable. And it's something that's been afforded to kids so far just because of relationships I have in North Fulton and Buckhead. And what I've done is kind of come together with a group of very interested people in bringing that to South Fulton. So we hope to start a program soon that will allow kids to go through different phases of a kind of teen court where they're interfacing with the system a little bit if they just want to do phase one and do some observation and learn about the system. And then ultimately spending more time with the court if they want to be more involved. Judge LaGrua doesn't know it yet, but since we're close, I'm hoping some of these kids can help in some way with her program that she'll address. They're very interested in tutoring the kids in her program. But also finally ending with kind of a mock trial experience, maybe after the third phase of that program. So it's in development. But I think it's important for kids to trust the system. I think we've gone through a period of time where people have very much lost trust in the system. And it's really important to get that back. So the younger generation needs to see that there are reasonable people working in the system.
So thank you so much. Great answer. As a follow-up to that, do you see problems, or do you see kids with mental health issues? And can you speak a little bit to the resources or lack thereof for kids that are suffering with mental health issues?
Okay, and if anybody wants to tag in on this one, feel free. I mean, it seems to me, and it may be the lenses that I have. So I've had one child who's gifted and one child who's gone all the way through special ed. And, we've dealt with therapists and other kids with issues throughout his school experience. So part of my lens of looking at things is looking for developmental disabilities or any kind of mental illness. So I feel like it is part of every day that we have court. And whether it's somebody who just needs educational support and it hasn't been diagnosed, so they failed because they need support, or somebody who genuinely needs to be on medication or other things, that's something I see, every day in court. During COVID, it's been a real problem to get people resources, but I'll ask one of you guys to tag in. I've been in court the least time. I've been on the bench for a little over a year. So they're going to know more about the resources. But for me, it's something I see every day that I'm in court.
Anyone else want to follow up with that one? I asked the question because we see that in the hospital, just a lack of resources for the mental ill. So Judge LaGrua, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's no question there's a lack of resources. This is probably the next horizon of criminal justice reform, is looking at mental health and the challenges that come with it. With that said, you also have to be a little creative and you have to dig for your resources. There are some there, not what we need, definitely limited. It needs to be expanded significantly. But we're very fortunate in Fulton County. We have an incredible public defender's office that has just amazing social workers that can really dig and find resources when we need them. Are there enough? No. And as I say, I think that's the next big hurdle in criminal justice.
Great, thank you. Judge Barwick?
Yes.
Did you want to say?
On mental, well, I think that as I first heard your question, it was about children.
Yeah, but you can go to adults.
Mental issues. And so that does come up, particularly in the family area, which I'll talk about in a minute if you like. But we do have social workers with the court who are available for home visits, for supplementing some of the evaluations that occur in custody cases and that type of thing. So there are some resources we can turn to, but I agree with Judge LaGrua and Judge Carnesale that that's kind of the, I think that is a path we all face and obstacles we all face. Ma'am.
Unmute.
See how many times, I wish I had $5 for every time I did that. How about telling us about the Fulton County Family Court and what keeps you engaged in your role there? Judge Barwick.
That's to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. One thing that I think is really interesting to know about Fulton County, and you may already be aware of it, but at the Superior Court, we have a separate family division, which is comprised of 4 judges full-time out of our 20 judges. So a good allocation of resources to deal with nothing but family cases. And that includes everything from legitimation cases, child support cases, divorce cases, and just a lot of custody work. So the emphasis there is to be able to have judges who are trained in the law, but who are also trained in, not trained, but at least educated in other areas such as family dynamics, domestic violence, mental issues as they may impact a family, as they may inform custody decisions. And we've really put a tremendous amount of resources into having judges, some resources such as social workers, a great deal of access to private resources such as guardians ad litem who work with the courts, sometimes pro bono, but oftentimes paid by the parties. And so those are the resources that we depend on in the family division to make sure those cases get that special attention that I think we all understand they require.
Judge Barwick, a follow-up on that. Can you share with us maybe one of your favorite cases or one of your most impactful cases that you've seen during your time in the court?
There is probably this thing as a favorite case in family. We see people at the worst time. There's an old saying among judges that family law, you see good people at their worst, and in criminal law, you see people at their best, on their best behavior. And that's very true. In family, you just see lovely, well-educated people who are bonkers and who are acting bad and not child focused by any means. So the favorite cases are those cases. We have a lot of self-represented litigants, which is one reason we attach such resources to the area. But those cases where you really can deal directly with parents and say, hey, come on, is that your children are only going to do what they see you do? Is that really the way you want to behave? And about every now and then you can have a little bit of a breakthrough. So I've had people hugging and weeping and not reconciling together, but over their children in the courtroom. And that can happen. And you hope that it lasts up until the parking lot.
Yeah, thank you. Do you ever get to see, like, you just see them in their crisis, but I guess you don't get to see them whether they succeed, but if they fail, they'll be back, right, into your courtroom?
If they, you always wonder. I mean, it's like watching the cowboy ride over the sunset. What's on the other side of the hill? And you always want, maybe some you want to see that, but I can't say that it's great to see people again, but I get Christmas cards. I get emails from people. I get notes. I mean, I really do. It is amazing how many people just say, I didn't particularly, Facebook. I didn't particularly like what you did, but thanks for listening to me. I felt like you listened.
Well, that's good.
Or I'll get notes or some feedback, which I cherish.
Well, thank you very much. That was great to hear about. So Judge Dunaway, I heard I didn't get to see your virtual courtroom, which you told me virtually went away, right? Went down. But I wanted to see if you could talk to us about how not having all these backlog of cases has impacted the number of trials, and what effect that's had on the jails and the general population.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, today I did invite everybody to watch virtual hearings, kind of right as we were getting into a bond hearing and things were happening. The internet went out here at the courthouse. So everyone who was attached to the county internet went off of Zoom. But luckily, the participants stayed on, and I was able to grab my phone and Zoom in from my phone, and we kind of adapted. We adapted and overcame the technical issues and got back up and running, and finished having court right about 10 minutes before this meeting was to begin. But we got it done, and that's kind of, been, since this has started, that's been the motto of this bench is we're going to get it done. We're going to figure out ways to get it done. We're going to work together and get it done. We may have some disagreements, but in the end, the work has continued to get done. We've continued to move the business that the people have elected us to handle. As far as the backlog of cases, because we have been working, I actually think our indicted, cases are indicted by the district attorney's office. The cases that have been indicted by the district attorney's office, I know of my calendar, the ones that could be resolved have been resolved. The district attorney has been talking to the public defenders and the defense attorneys, and we've taken a lot of negotiated pleas. There have been a lot of consent bonds reached by the parties to make sure people who are safe to be out on bond are out on bond and are not sitting in the Fulton County Jail. But the cases that we are not able to deal with because we don't have juries are the heavy cases, the child molestation, the rape charges, the murder charges, the shootings. Those cases, I'm having bond hearings 2 and 3 times on the same case, which, frustrates me because normally by now I would have gotten that case to a posture either ready for a plea or ready for a trial, ready for some type of disposition. But because we don't have jurors available, the defense attorneys are making the correct argument. My client's been sitting in jail for a year, and we still don't know when we're going to have an opportunity to try my client's case before a jury. So now the client's constitutional rights are starting to be affected to having a public and speedy trial. And so those are considerations that the court has to take into account. But it's my understanding that the issue of backlog cases are cases that are unindicted, where people have been arrested by the police department. The police departments from all over the county have brought those inmates to the Fulton County Detention Center, and they are now sitting in the Fulton County Detention Center, and they have not had any formal charges brought against them because we have been unable to have a grand jury to either pass on those and give them an indictment, or to look at those and say, no, they don't meet the standard. So it's my understanding that we have a backlog of unindicted cases, and hopefully that pressure will start being relieved next month when the grand jury is impaneled and the DA's office starts presenting some cases. And so we can start moving some of those, the unindicted cases, and get them before a Superior Court judge and get some movement on them towards a disposition. As I tell the parties, however you all want to dispose of the case, you all can dismiss it, you can plead it, or you can try it, but we're going to move it. And so we'll get it in that posture where they can dismiss it, plea or try it, and not have people sitting waiting for their case to be charged and brought before a judge. So that's the pressure that we're feeling right now, is to get those people sitting in jail uncharged, charged, and before a court.
Thank you. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the state of the social injustice, the things we're seeing in our communities, and how, if you've seen an impact from those things on your cases.
Wow, the things that are going on in the community is a lot. It's a lot. It's heavy. It's worrisome. Like I said, I have two young daughters. I worry about them. My nephew, who is 19 years old, 19-year-old black man in Atlanta, I worry about him all the time. He's supposed to be at the University of Augusta studying cybersecurity, but because he has really bad asthma, we decided not to send him down there to live in a dorm situation. So I worry about him and what's going on with him all the time. It's heavy things. It causes me a lot of stress with having young kids and being a judge in Fulton County and in the community, and how it's all going to resolve and play out. And again, if there are people who are arrested because of things that are happening, they're sitting in the jail uncharged, or they have these cases over their head and they're uncharged cases, and we can't get them into court. And so hopefully once the grand jury is back and cases start getting indicted, we will be able to move some more cases.
I'm going to open this up to all of the judges, and I hope this is a fair question. We've done in Emory Healthcare a lot of work with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think most organizations are really paying attention to these topics, not just because of what's going on in the world, but because it's so important for us as a community, whatever community that is. Would you say that there are inequities based on culture, gender, religion, and those different categories we put people in? And if you do or don't, are there things that we can do from a judicial system to mitigate those issues?
I'll tag in. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you, Judge Carnesale.
Well, just briefly, as judges, every day we hear motions to suppress. So what that means is law enforcement has collected evidence and the defense is alleging that there's something inappropriate about either there wasn't probable cause for the warrant, or someone was targeted for a specific reason or something of that nature. So that's something, even in any time, even if it's not a time of cultural revolution in the country, that judges face and need to understand both what goes on in society and also just what happens in our system. So I think all of us have experienced, I certainly have experienced hearing evidence as a district attorney. Actually, I haven't as a judge had to suppress something based on it, but I certainly had the ability to dismiss cases if I thought that there was an issue of someone being targeted inappropriately or a lack of probable cause. I had the ability to dismiss those cases as a prosecutor. So I think that's something that in the system, the players are used to dealing with these issues. And perhaps now it is more than ever on the radar of society. But I think judges and prosecutors and defense attorneys, these are issues that we've been talking about forever. So it's a matter of whether society is going to come along and understand what's going on. But these are issues that we see every single day, as judges and prosecutors. And, it's not controversial to acknowledge that the vast majority of defendants that we see in Fulton County are Black males. So that's just a simple fact. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess it's well over 80%. Do you guys agree with that? And so say what you will about what causes that dynamic, it's just a fact that we deal with every day. And so I think that as we sentence people, you know, I'm accustomed to hearing people argue, understand what this felony means for this person, as opposed to what it might mean for a different person. So that's just a reality we deal with every day as judges, and we just have to do our best to be unbiased and see things for what they are, not be in denial about dynamics that we face in society. I think it's a mistake to pretend there's no racism, right? So it's our job to remain open-minded and be honest about, you know, what's going on culturally.
I appreciate those comments. We, you know, we have the same struggles, and I think just awareness and the conversations, and we just had a class up here on unconscious bias that really opened your eyes up to things that you generally don't think about on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for that. I'll go to Judge LaGrua. Do you have a comment on that?
I mean, clearly there are inequities in the system, in every system. There's no question about that. And it's something that as judges, we should be particularly mindful of, because we have in our hands the ability to shape lives in a positive way, in a negative way, however you look at it. I would say that the one thing, and I think this is in large part the media in this country, has been very divisive and has pointed out a lot more of the things that separate us than the things that bring us together. And I think that's a shame, because I think there are a lot more things that we have in common and share as members of this community than there are that make us different. I think we need to address the issues that come before us, the inequities. We need to have conversation and honest conversations about that. But I also think we need to recognize all the great things about our community and all the things that actually bind us together instead of push us apart.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing about that topic?
Yes, please do.
There's a program the district attorney's office has where they bring in school kids and they ask judges to speak to the kids. And right after I took the bench, I was asked to go speak to the kids because, again, everybody knows I like kids. And I was just answering questions for students, and it was by far majority African-American students. If it wasn't 99%, it was close. And one of the questions they asked is what they could do if someone got charged with a crime and got a white judge. And I said, why would you need to do something about that? And they said, because it wouldn't be fair. And so when I say it informs me to hear from students, that's what I'm talking about. I think that it's so important for kids to trust the system, you know. And I said, are you saying that if I was charged with a crime, I shouldn't have an African-American judge? And they said, yes. And it just kind of broke my heart, to be honest. And I think it's really important that whether it's in the schools or at home or what we can do as judges, kids need to see that they can get a fair shake and that it's not based, you know, that race should not play any role in it.
Thank you. Judge Dunaway.
Yes. I have an example from today. I had a person in Zoom court of some means, and that, you know, some economic status, and was able to hire a prominent lawyer, had access to money to post bond, had access to other treatment, that a lot of the people that come before me in the court, they do not have that type of access to because of their socioeconomic status. And so because they had economic means, the lawyer was able to lay out this great plan for the client, and they're going to be seeing this person and this professional, and they're going to have all these things, and we'll do an ankle monitor and these wraparound service because they could pay for those things. And I see the inequities when you have people that come before you in the same position, the same charge, kind of the same record, and they don't have those means to set up you know, that type of wraparound services to make the court feel like, okay, I have some support in place so that you make sure that this person stays on the right path. And so it makes it difficult to when you have that person that doesn't have those means, what do you do? Like I think it was Judge Barwick who said one of them said the public defenders have great resources, but it's very, it's very few of the great resources. And so you have to weigh each person equally, but at the same time realizing that if I could give you that same support that this other defendant has, you would have the same opportunity and the same chance that person did. And I am mindful that some people just, if I give one person a $5,000 bond, they make it easy. That's nothing for them. If I give another person a $5,000 bond, that's no bond at all, because they will never be able to come up with that type of money. And so if I want them to get out, I have to give them a signature bond and not a $5,000 bond, because they'll never make it. And so those are some of the inequities I see, is that you have people charged with the same thing, same record, but they are just in a different circumstance.
Thank you so much, Judge Dunaway. I just love what you say, and I hope I'm never on the other side of the bench from you, but if I had to be, I'd be glad to see you there. I'm going to ask now,
Just one time. You only want to see me one. The second time, you don't want to see me.
Don't want to see you, no. I just want to visit. So, Judge LaGrua, could you talk to us about your program, My Journey Matters, and how you've really impacted with that program many of the young people, sort of just what we've been talking about?
Oh, my favorite subject, probably of my career. You were talking to, I think it was Judge Barwick earlier, you said you never get to see people again. Well, like Judge Carnesale and Judge Dunaway, I was an assistant district attorney most of my career, and this is true for district attorneys and judges. You sentence somebody, off they go, and that's sort of the end of the story most times. When I started many, many years ago as a prosecutor, the average violent offender was about 20, 21, dropping out of school in the 9th grade. And I'm going to speed through because I could talk about this for hours. Fast forward to me taking the bench, the average violent offender is 16 or 17, dropping out of school in the 9th grade. And for those of you that don't know, that are part of this, an armed robbery charge is a minimum mandatory 10 years. I have no choice. Unless the case is reduced or they go to trial and they're acquitted, if there is an armed robbery conviction or a plea, it's 10 years to the door. No choice, I have no control. Well, I started thinking about that, and Marilyn, if you leave work tonight from the hospital at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, you go to the parking deck, you get hit over the head with a gun, your purse gets stolen. Am I going to say that that defendant shouldn't get, if we catch him, 10 years to serve? No, I was a prosecutor. That's probably a fair sentence. But what I am going to say is, when we arrest that 17-year-old young man, what are we going to do in 10 years after we send him to prison for 10 years? He's going to be raised by gang members. He's going to be raised in the prison system. He's going to have no education. He's going to have no job skills. And so the next victim is going to be Eric or Judge Dunaway or one of his children or Judge Barwick. There's going to be another victim. And unless he kills someone, he's going to get out of prison again. So I thought, I was very involved in accountability courts, drug court, DUI court, and I thought, well, maybe that would work. And so we started this program where I am trying to deal with young violent offenders, predominantly armed robbery, aggravated assault defendants, and they become part of the My Journey Matters program if they fit some criteria. And what happens is then they have to report to court every month to me. They have to be in school. They have to bring me their report cards. They have to maintain a B average. They have a curfew. They get drug tested. They have to read every day. They have to write handwritten book reports. And they don't get out of the program until they are educated. And by educated, I mean they have a high school diploma or GED and a trade, or they've gone to college. Many of these folks aren't going to go to traditional college. So when I say educated, it could be they have an HVAC license or certificate or a plumbing certificate. So they have to be educated, stable, and clean. And they don't get out of the program until that happens. In fact, I have some folks that have been with me for 7 or 8 years with no violations, but they just haven't gotten their GED yet. And they will tell you point blank, unless you make me get it, I'm not going to get it. So, but the fun thing is we are actually diverting, and I purposely try not to use the word divert, because this is not a diversion program. This is not a get out of jail free card, but we are trying to keep these young people from a lifetime of prison. And while we've had some glitches, and we've had some folks that have, I've been on the front page a couple of times for somebody we put on bond or in the program that committed a serious felony, i.e. a murder. But it's also been working. I have a ton of young folks that are never going back into the system, that would have spent their lifetime in and out of prison. I stopped at Perimeter Mall one night to get pick up a pizza. I was in gym shorts, my hair was in a pigtail. Defendants say I look a lot bigger on the bench. I'm only 5'2". There's Judge Dunaway grinning at me. He knows how tall I am. And I walked in, there was nobody in there. I asked the manager to do takeout. She sent me to the bar. I went to the bar and I'm ordering, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this gentleman, and he has these long dreads and he looks very familiar. And I look a little closer and I say, "Mr. Beatles?" And he looks up at me and he goes, "Ms. Judge," now mind you, I'm in gym shorts and a t-shirt. He goes, "Ms. Judge LaGrua?" And he comes around and he gives me this big bear hug, twirls me around this empty restaurant. He was a defendant that had had 2 armed robbery charges, had just been promoted, had graduated the program, had just been promoted that day to assistant manager, was working next door at the pub as a chef. We've stayed in touch. He's now in the islands as a sous chef. He texts me and we stay in touch. And he's never going to prison. He will never come back. I am convinced and I could tell you a dozen stories. I think of these as sort of my kids. They're not kids, but I think of them that way. And I will tell you the other phenomenal piece of this program. Then Deputy Chief Erica Shields, our former police chief, became interested in the program. And about 4.5, 5 years ago, she got a federal grant before she became chief. We got 3 full-time Atlanta police officers assigned to this program. Not as gotcha cops. They mentor, they take them on field trips, they go to their schools, they go to their homes. We've been to the Rialto Theater, an escape room, the Black College Hall of Fame football game, the Falcons game, the Hawks games, all of these field trips, the Civil Rights Museum. And when she became chief, she made it a permanent part of the police department budget. So we have 3 full-time Atlanta police officers that mentor these kids. And I tell you that in this context. Can you imagine the narrative across this country if the relationship between the community and the police department became what these kids look at as police, as somebody they look to, they turn to for help, for mentorship, for leadership, for friendship, what we would do? And like I said, I could talk forever, so I'm shutting up.
Well, we don't want you to shut up because those kinds of things are so uplifting to hear. And one of the follow-up questions I would have, and there's no Q&A, so I think we can go right till 1 o'clock. The question would be, what resources do you have? Do you have partnerships with education so that they can get their GED, or that's left on them?
Sort of. I have, we've had a couple of volunteers. We work with the At Promise Center that has some wraparound services, but my social workers and my public defenders are incredibly engaged in this. They think it works better than drug court. They've been engaged from the beginning, so we have some resources. It has no funding. It is me and my staff and the public defenders. We have had some limited partnerships. The city of Atlanta has hired some of our folks, even knowing their backgrounds. We do some tutoring. What I started to tell you is occasionally I will get one of the defendants Judge Dunaway was talking about, sort of a little bit atypical. I've had a couple of, believe it or not, microbiologists and engineers that have appeared in front of me. And as part of their sentence, I give them a choice on their community service. Do they want to pick up trash on their weekends, or do they want to go tutor my young folks? And they generally choose the tutoring because they're too good to pick up trash. But it works out really well. And usually they continue after the community service ends to tutor these young folks because they find it rewarding to see what comes out of this. We have a nonprofit with it. We are working on some things to set up some more resources and hopefully eventually make this something that can be replicated in other courtrooms. And Judge Carnesale, I'm going to give it away right here and now for all to hear, is eventually going to start this as well. I know, so y'all can hold her to that. Those of you up in Johns Creek, so keep reminding her.
Well, I think the program's amazing. I'm a member of the Johns Creek Rotary, and we do a lot of work with education of kids, and we partner with places like The Place that's up in North Fulton. North
Fulton tutors, because believe it or not, we have a lot of folks that can't make it downtown.
Oh yeah. Well, that might be something that we could work on from a hospital standpoint, because we have a good partnership with the Rotary. So I have your contact information. Maybe we can start something with Judge Carnesale up in this area as a partnership. We'd love to do that.
Y'all heard this. I got lots of witnesses here.
22, I think. So I would like to thank you so much. You all have brought such wonderful information, and it's definitely been my favorite hour. It's so much more fun than talking about COVID. So thank you for your service. You are all honorable in what you do. It's a lot of gratitude towards what you do and who you are. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And we'll get something going on. So thanks to everybody that's participated. And I think Irene wants to say a few words.
I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this. It was the class of 2020 for Leadership Johns Creek got stuck in the pandemic, and we're not able to finish their class. They're just now finishing their class. And so this was an opportunity for them to be able to, get another program day in and get a little more value. And I think that they probably did. Yes, Shawn.
Irene, this is an open invitation. When we lift a little bit, I'm happy to have the entire class come visit.
Oh, that would be awesome. So I wanted to ask if you guys would take a screenshot. Liz Hausman joined us, and I don't know why her video isn't on. Liz, do you have your video on? Maybe
Lynn was there too a second ago. Lynn, where'd you go?
Lynn had a hard stop at 1:55, but she was there the whole time too, but she had a hard stop.
There's Liz.
Hey, Melanie, let me mute this other one.
We all have multiple things going on, but I want to thank Marilyn. She was a member of the Leadership Johns Creek class of 2015 and is a big supporter of our program, as is Liz. And our kids are always so enamored with all of the judges. So I'll have to ask you to do this again one day with my students, because they all want to become lawyers and judges and doctors. So you guys are right in their wheelhouse. So I'm going to take a screenshot. So you guys, I'm going to give you an opportunity to smile.
Can y'all see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've hidden myself, so I don't know if I'm there or not.
Sit up a little. Sit up a little taller. Liz.
Move up?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more.
And let me just
Close up.
Can you sit on your legs so your head's there you go. Perfect.
How about that?
Perfect. That's
okay,
perfect.
hold on, let me just take the picture. Okay, so I'm going to give you a count of 3. 1, 2. Oh, wait a minute, I have to hide me. Let me hide me.
I don't think you should hide you.
Yeah, no, I need to be hidden. I know my husband thinks that too most of the time. Okay, here we go. 1, 2. And the kids say I always take these pictures crooked, which I probably do. We've been, my students did 2 virtual debates. Thank you. My students did 2 virtual debates, and they're they did such a good job, and but I heard all about how I'm not very good at this. So,
Hey,
so anyway,
Liz.
Hey, did y'all have a good forum today?
we did. It was so interesting. We could have gone another hour.
That's good. Sorry I missed it.
Anyway,
It's
but
nice
thank
to
you.
see y'all's faces, by the way. I don't know where I'm at, but anyway, good to see y'all. Everybody looks good, healthy.
Everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
And so we should all say happy birthday to Rachelle, because yesterday was her birthday.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Birthday.
And we should all say thank you to Councilwoman Hausman for all her good support of the judges.
Yes.
My pleasure. It's like one of the most important things we do in Fulton County is our judicial system. So y'all do fine work. I follow you closely. I don't say a lot to you, but appreciate all y'all do.
Thank you.
Well, and so I wanted to thank you again, and let you know that if you need anything from me or Leadership Johns Creek, please don't hesitate to ask. And if you need anything from Emory Johns Creek, Maryland's right there, right up the road.
Marilyn has helped me in the past. She's always been wonderful. So she's a doll.
Thank you.
Irene, will you share our contact information with the students in with the group in case they want to email us? It's all just our first name dot last name at the Fulton County.
I have all your contact information. I'll share it. Plus, I recorded this as a video, so I'm going to share that as well.
And I think, Irene, we're scheduling some good stuff for you, for the students next month.
Okay. We're going to have, the students are going to have Strong Women in Government Day.
Awesome.
You got it.
There's a lot of them.
Sorry, Eric.
Right here, starting with Liz.
And I don't care what your politics are, but the one that was sitting in the Senate hearing the last few days is a great example of a strong woman.
Absolutely.
Strong, accomplished woman.
That's right.
Anyway, so Eric, you still
Right.
sound like you were born and raised in New Orleans, and I just can't help that.
Nope, right up the street at Grady Hospital. This was, but
There
I
you
did,
go.
in college, I did spend some time in New Orleans with people on the East Bank.
But you sound so, you've got the, yeah. You need to become a Saints fan. Sorry.
Well, the Falcons.
Y'all, I hate to run off, but I do have this other thing going I need to pay attention
too.
to. So
All
I think
right.
I actually
Thanks
have to
so much
present
to all of
something.
you. You were
Y'all
great.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.